Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy J-Red, and today I am bringing out my 2018 NCAA tournament predictions. We have 64 teams competing in this year's tournament, and it's going to come down to 2 once it's said and done, once I go through all my predictions. So without further ado, let's get right into the predictions. So as you can tell, I've already started with Virginia and UMBC. I started an original video, but then it cut it out because of the Wi-Fi or something. But right now, I'm showing you my previous picks. I have picked Virginia over UMBC. As much as I love the mascot for that team, the Retriever, Kyle Guy and Virginia have been pretty much unstoppable this entire season. Being a #1 seed, I think they're moving on. And then I have Kansas State versus Creighton. I have Kansas State over them as my first upset pick. And then the next pick, this is where my laptop cut out on me with the Wi-Fi. Kentucky versus Davidson. I think Kentucky's going to move on just because for the sheer fact I think they're a better team. Because they have Kevin Knox, Jared Vanderbilt, Nick Richards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Humidou Diallo. They've been playing like a team recently, and that's pretty scary to think about. Even though they're a young team, I still think they're going to beat Davidson. Moving on to the next prediction, Arizona versus Buffalo. I'm going to pick Arizona. DeAndre Ayton has been a monster this season, and I don't see Buffalo pulling up the upset against Arizona. Next up, we have 6 seed Miami versus Loyola Chicago as the number 11 seed. I have Loyola as my upset, to tell you the truth. I mean, I have nothing else to say about them. I just think they could be a potential upset. And then Wright State versus Tennessee, I'm going to say Tennessee. Nevada versus Texas, this is another upset pick. I'm going to say Texas. Muhammad Bamba, I'm going to go see him in Nashville, Tennessee with Super Celtic 24, Isaac, and Devin. It's going to be interesting to see, but I think Muhammad Bamba and Texas are going to pull out the victory. And then Cincinnati versus Georgia State, I'm going to pick Cincinnati. Next up, we have Xavier versus the winner of NC Central and Texas Southern. I'm going to go with Xavier. Even though they did lose to Providence in the Big East tournament, I still think they're a pretty good team coming into the NCAA tournament. Then the next matchup, we have Missouri versus Florida State. Now, this is kind of going to be a shocker. I ain't going to put Florida State over Missouri. I'm going to pick Missouri just because they have Michael Porter Jr. back. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how far he takes his team in the NCAA tournament. Now, this one I had a little bit of trouble with. Ohio State versus South Dakota State. I would want to pick South Dakota State just for the sheer fact that they have, what's his name again? Mike Daum. But I think Ohio State's going to pull out the victory against them. Then we have Gonzaga versus UNC Greensboro. No shocker there. Gonzaga is going to beat them. Then we have Houston versus San Diego State. I have Houston winning over them. Then we have Michigan versus Montana. If Michigan still had DJ Wilson, I think Michigan could have been a #2 seed just because he's pretty good, but he's in the NBA right now. But since Michigan doesn't have DJ Wilson, I still think they're going to beat Montana. Next matchup, Providence versus Texas A&M. Providence did take out Xavier in the Big East tournament, and Texas A&M has been playing good basketball recently, but I think it's going to be Providence that moves on to the next round. And then North Carolina versus Lipscomb, I say North Carolina wins. Joel Berry and Luke May are pretty much unstoppable right now. I think they're going to move on to the next round. Then we have Villanova versus LIU Brooklyn, between the winner of LIU Brooklyn and Radford. I'm going to say Villanova because they have Mikal Bridges, and he's been pretty good this season for Villanova, as they have been one of the top teams so far in this tournament. Oh, I thought it lagged out on me for a second. Virginia Tech versus Alabama. Virginia Tech has had a high-profile offense this entire season. They've been pretty good, but they have lost a lot of games. Alabama, they have Colin Sexton. They played with 3 players at one point in the season, and even then, they almost won. I can't remember who was against. Colin Sexton was a beast. I think he's going to turn up in the NCAA tournament. Alabama moves on to the next round. Then we have West Virginia versus Murray State. Shout out to Murray State fans, as they are from Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky. They are on an 11-game winning streak right now, but I think their 11-game win streak comes to an end against West Virginia, unfortunately. And then we have Wichita State versus Marshall. Wichita State has always been a tournament team, always has been. They've been getting better pretty much every season if you think about it. I think Wichita State's going to move on to the next round as they beat Marshall. Then we have Florida against the winner of St. Bonaventure and UCLA. I think Florida's going to come out on top against them. Then we have Texas Tech versus Stephen F. Austin. I'm going to pull out the upset here. I'm going to say Stephen F. Austin because they've always been a tournament team. They always have been. And I see them pulling off against Texas Tech. I see them pulling up the upset against them. I mean, this is March Madness for a reason, people. And then Butler versus Arkansas. As much as I want to say Butler's going to win, I say Arkansas's got it. And then Purdue versus CS Fullerton. Purdue all the way. They've been pretty good all season. Now we have Kansas versus Penn. Penn had to beat Harvard to get into the NCAA tournament. They beat them by 3 points in the Ivy League championship. Kansas, they're pretty much going to beat Penn. I think Penn was disrespected too much to be a 16 seed. That's just what I think, though. Then we have Seton Hall versus NC State. This could be a good matchup. I really don't know who would win, but I'm going to say NC State. Imagine if NC State still had Dennis Smith Jr. That would be pretty awesome. They could have been like a 6 or a 5 seed if they still had Dennis Smith, but unfortunately they don't. This, I'm going to have another upset. New Mexico State over Clemson, just because why the heck not? And then Auburn versus Charleston. Auburn, they lost to Alabama, and they were the #1 seed in the SEC. I'm going to say Charleston gets the upset here. And then TCU versus Arizona State and Syracuse. I really don't know how Syracuse got into the NCAA tournament. Their record was not the greatest. They were the last team to get in. I really don't think they should have been there. Doesn't matter. TCU, in my opinion, moves on. Miles Bridges and Michigan State. You can't stop him. I know this is not going to be a popular pick by any means, but I say Oklahoma beats Rhode Island. I mean, Trae Young is good, but they relied on him too much. And then Duke, they're going to beat Iona. Going into the second round, we have Virginia versus Kansas State. Virginia's going to win. Now, with this pick, this is going to pain me because I am a huge Kentucky fan. But how can you stop DeAndre Ayton? Like, there's no way you're going to stop that monster unless you play very good defense on him, which Kentucky has not been doing consistently. And plus, Kentucky's really so young. I think Arizona's going to do it. DeAndre Ayton's going to be a monster in that game. And then in this, Tennessee versus Loyola Chicago, I'm going to say Loyola Chicago moves on and beats Tennessee. The next round, as much as I want to say Muhammad Bama is going to beat Cincinnati, Cincinnati's been on a road this season. Now with this one, Xavier versus Missouri, Michael Porter, in my opinion, I think he's going to turn up in the NCAA tournament since he's coming back from injury. I think he's going to have a breakout game against Xavier and move on to the next round for the upset. Then Gonzaga versus Ohio State, Gonzaga. Michigan versus Houston, I'm going to say Michigan. And then North Carolina versus Providence, no shocker there in North Carolina. Villanova versus Alabama. As much as I want to say Colin Saxon and his team could beat Villanova, Villanova is just an awesome team to watch. Wichita State versus West Virginia. I'm going to say it again. Wichita State has been amazing in the NCAA tournament. They always have been. And they have great offensive power. West Virginia has one of the best defenses in the nation. I think Wichita State moves on to the next round. Then next we have Stephen F. Austin in Florida. I think Florida beats them. And then Arkansas and Purdue. Purdue moves on. Then Kansas and NC State. Kansas. And then New Mexico State and Charleston. I think New Mexico State has got this. And then Michigan State and TCU. I'm going to go with Michigan State. And then Duke and Oklahoma. I mean, if Trae Young balls out, there could be a chance that they could win, but I don't see Trae Young getting past Trayvon Duval, Marvin Bagley, and Wendell Carter, and Grayson Allen. There's no way that it's going to happen. And then Virginia versus Arizona. DeAndre Ayton is a beast, but Kyle Guy and Virginia are a much more complete team than Arizona. Virginia moves on. Then Cincinnati versus Loyola Chicago. I think Cincinnati moves on to the next round. Then Gonzaga versus Missouri. I really hate to see Michael Porter Jr.'s run come to an end, but I think Gonzaga is going to beat Missouri, unfortunately. And then we have Michigan versus North Carolina. Joel Berry and Luke May on North Carolina is a more complete team. Villanova versus Wichita State. Unfortunately, Wichita State, I'm going to have to say your run comes to an end. Yes, you have been amazing in the NCAA tournament, but I think Villanova will come out with the win. Florida versus Purdue. I'm going to say Purdue. New Mexico State versus Kansas. All I'm saying is Kansas is not getting out of this round. There's no way. you have Michigan State and Duke. Whoever is the winner of that game is pretty much going to be Kansas, in my opinion. But even Kansas, they beat New Mexico State, and then Duke versus Michigan State. I'm going to say Michigan State. I really do think Michigan State is going to move on. And then we go on to the Elite Eight, Virginia versus Cincinnati. I'm going to go with Virginia. And then for the round of 8, North Carolina versus Gonzaga.
Rematch in last year's national championship.
Oh, yeah. I say North Carolina is going to win. That for sure. Villanova versus Purdue. I'm going to say Villanova. And then Michigan State beats Kansas. Okay. There we go. And then Virginia versus North Carolina. ACC matchup. Final Four, yeah. An ACC matchup in the Final Four. There we go. I had to correct myself. Alex had to correct myself. But North Carolina versus Virginia. Virginia, in my opinion, they've been dominant all season. I think they're going to beat North Carolina. The Michigan State versus Villanova. As much as I would want to say Miles Bridges would go to the championship game, Villanova is more of a complete team. And as in the championship game, we have two of the best college teams in Villanova and Virginia. 2 #1 seeds. Both have been dominant all season. In my honest opinion, I say Virginia wins. I think it's their time. I think they're going to do it. I mean, they've been awesome. I think they're going to do it. So anyways, guys, those are my 2018 NCAA tournament predictions. Hopefully you enjoyed my video. Don't forget to watch the Selection Sunday if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out my other videos on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. And don't forget the like button as well. And don't forget to check out Superstar24's channel as well, as he has already reached over 1,000 subscribers in a very short time this year. So congrats to him. Shout out to him. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will be bringing out an NCAA tournament vlog in Nashville as I'm going with Alex, Devin, and Isaac. And without further ado, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have an awesome day, and I will see you all later.